Hey, yo, Pro Wrestling Podcast listeners, help us out and click subscribe to show your support. And while I'm on that topic, before I get going with anything else, I gotta tell you, we have had a host of new subscribers this week, whether it was YouTube or Spreaker or on Stitcher or iTunes. And I want anybody who may be listening to this episode, I want you to know, thank you so much directly from me to you. All those people who subscribe, you guys make this worthwhile to do. I don't think anybody thinks about this as much as I do, but like, this is not something I do to make a bunch of money. I don't. I think I made 24 cents since January when I started doing this. I do this to make sure that people who love and respect the wrestling business and who really are fans of the wrestling business get to have an outlet to listen to something who's not some guy who's behind the scenes and all that kind of craziness. I just want to see people happy. And I feel like in the last month or two, we've had a lot of people who've been sending me these amazing messages. I know I've got one of my buddies here for the show now, Harold out in St. Louis. I get to have really good conversations with Harold. He sends me great questions. I know I've got another buddy of mine over here in Hatfield in Pennsylvania who's really, we always have these great conversations. I got a couple more people this week who are sending me just really cool stuff, and I can't tell you how much that means to a guy who really, I did this just on a whim to help out some former students of mine. If you're a new follower, a new subscriber to the Pro Wrestling Podcast, I am a school teacher. I had students in Philadelphia school district who loved professional wrestling. Philadelphia is a hotbed for professional wrestling. And when I left Philadelphia, I went to another district, and those kids were contacting me like you wouldn't believe, hoping to hear more information and get information about wrestling and ask me my opinions and things like that. And I thought, what a great way to give back to them, but by having a podcast where I could kind of stay in touch with them indirectly and still be able to fuel their passion for something that I've been passionate about since I was 4 years old. So every time I do one of these and I see new subscribers and things like that, it really does make me feel great that you guys enjoy what it is that I do. I hope you appreciate it. I hope it's good enough for you to want to come back every week. If not, by all means, I say it all the time, and I'm going to mention it in a few seconds. I have a sound off line, 267-642-1160. If there is something that you love that we do, let me know. If there's something you can't stand, that's okay too. Let me know. For me, I want to make the show as enjoyable and interactive with you guys as I can. I really appreciate my buddy Harold. I mean, we've had countless messages this week that are just, it's always fun to get messages from people who really are thinking about I don't care what people say, the sport of professional wrestling. Howard had all kinds of great ideas, and the worst part is my schedule is insane, especially right now. It's the start of the school year, and I'm getting ready to head back to school, and I got to get things ready, and I just have not been able to get on like I regularly would like to. It's been a crazy couple weeks. As some people have noticed, my going live at 9:05 has really been like going live at 10:25 for like 4 weeks now because I've just been so slammed. But for those who tune in every week, thank you guys so much. You make this all worthwhile. Every time I get a subscriber, every time I get a comment, when I put something up on YouTube and you guys give me comments there, it really that's the payoff. It's not about the 24 cents I made from whatever click-through advertising they put into my videos. I don't care about that. I care about is what I'm doing entertaining people and letting them really enjoy the product. And I'm hoping, it seems like that's the case. I'm thrilled because I keep seeing the subscriber count, especially on Spreaker. I was totally oblivious. I knew I had, over 300 people on YouTube, but then I found out I have almost 400 people on Spreaker, and I was like, oh, wow, what an awesome audience. Like, I just, when I started doing this, I never thought that was going to happen. So thank you to every single person who listens to one of these episodes. You make it worthwhile. I am hoping that this week I will hopefully have a brand new interview episode to put up. I'm not making any promises, but I was contacted by a very special guest, and I literally was writing out a run sheet of questions for them tonight, and that I want to try to get on the phone with them on Monday night and hopefully record an episode and get that up for you guys. Something I'm very excited about. If it falls through, I apologize, but if it falls through, I'll let you know who it was. If it goes through, you guys will have a new interview episode posted shortly, and I'm very excited about that as well. Before I forget to say it, because I love to plug. I don't know if anybody realizes this or not, but there's always companies that I mentioned throughout my episode. I get paid by none of them. I don't do that to make money. I know some people think I'm nuts. I should be charging advertising revenue or something like that. I don't do this for that. If at some point I've got 5 million viewers on YouTube, well, maybe things will be different. But right now, I plug the products or the people or the websites that I think really deserve it, and one of them is always going to be on Facebook, Wrestler Unstoppable. I have been playing Wrestler Unstoppable since 2011, and it is a very exciting interactive wrestling game. I say it all the time, I create my own plugs. It's not like these people send me a script to write. I write all my own stuff. I'm not one of those people who I don't read off of prompter cards and all that kind of stuff. I write my own thing, and so when I say, if you're sick and tired of spending $60 to $100 for a new wrestling game every year, I don't do that. I don't buy the 2K wrestling games or the Legends of games. I play Wrestler Unstoppable, fully customizable wrestler. You can sign contracts today. I signed 3 contracts with 3 companies for, the equivalent, if you were talking dollars, of $140,000 contracts with 3 different companies, because it's something you could do in the game. I've been on pay-per-views. I've headlined pay-per-views. I have my own corporation where I have one of the coolest, most innovative tournaments in the game. So I encourage you, if you're a Facebook user, check out Wrestler Unstoppable. It's a very, really cool way to create your own thing and be connected with the wrestling side of things in a video game without having to pay anything. Of course, they always have you can buy in and buy extra stuff, but I've never done any of that, and I've got pretty much everything you can have in the game. So, by all means, check that out if you haven't already. I just got done all that spiel about how I don't make a ton of money. That's fine. I do have a Patreon page. And, every week, I'm going to say this every week because I appreciate it. Harold from St. Louis, my #1 Patreon. Thank you, Harold. You're the man. You're awesome. Please keep sending me your questions, comments, and things. I love hearing them. And that's anybody who wants to become a member of the Fro Wrestling Podcast family. Go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/Fro Wrestling Podcast if you want to contribute to our efforts. Somebody said to me in an email, they said that you always put up this Patreon thing. Why would I put anything into Patreon when I could just listen to your episodes for free? There's a simple reason for that. If you want me to improve the quality of the product, what I would like to do is get some better equipment. Make it so you don't hear, my kids running around upstairs when I'm doing an episode or something of that nature. So if you want to contribute to the fund to make the show a little better, by all means do it. If you don't, I'm not going to harbor any ill will. Like I said, I'm not in this for the money. I'm in this to bring happiness. So you don't have to feel obligated, but if you want to become a part of that, I would always encourage it. So thank you so much. I appreciate those people who have considered doing that for us. This obviously is our live episode for this week. It's going live a little past 9:05. Tonight, I apologize, but, my local town is having a very special event this evening, and I had to attend that. It's heartbreaking for me because not only did I not get to go live at 9:05 for you guys, but I also, tonight was a night I was hoping to go to another one of those Worldwide Wrestling Alliance shows tonight, and this was a big one because I was going to have my own banner and my own table and really set up this really cool setup, and I had a bunch of people who heard about the shows on the podcast and were going to the show, and I wanted to be there with them, and I just couldn't not make it happen tonight, and I feel horrible about that. So if you're one of those people who went to that show, none of those people knew that I was going tonight. So just so you understand, I didn't leave anybody out to dry. One person did contact me directly, and I explained to them I wasn't going to be there, but they were going to go either way. But if you're in the Quakertown, Pennsylvania area, these shows by the Worldwide Wrestling Alliance, or if you're near Zern's Farmers Market in Gilbertsville, they're a lot of fun. I know they're a small independent promotion, but they really do, even without television exposure, they put together a great show. And tonight was going to be a show that I was dying to see the minute I heard the match announced. The last show I was at, their world champion was going to defend his championship against their high energy or high impact. I want to make sure I say it right. They're high impact champions. So it was going to be cool seeing champion versus champion with the world championship on the line. And both guys are really cool guys. I've met them both, talked to them both. And so now I'm just anxiously awaiting the feedback from my buddy who went to the show to find out what happened in that match, because I'm kicking myself for not being able to be there tonight. Would have been great. But I will be back at that show twice in September, and then hopefully twice every month from there on out. But I want to get going with tonight's episode, what I have planned for you here. I will tell you, you guys who have been voting for the greatest WWE Intercontinental Champion of all time in our tournament that we've been doing our voting for. You guys have brought this down to an absolute dream final. The final is live now. It is up on the webpage. Feel free to go to frowrestling.com and cast your vote right away to get involved in the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time tournament and your final matchup. For those tuning in, I will tell you right now. Bret the Hitman Hart taking on the Macho Man, Randy Savage. One of these two, you guys will vote and crown the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time. I love it. We've gotten so much response to this tournament. I never expected to get so many people to be involved in the tournament. Thank you to every person who cast a vote. You people are awesome. I appreciate your interactive nature. It makes this just such an awesome thing to do. And I'm going to keep my eyes open for another tournament idea for you guys in the next couple weeks or so. I really like doing these tournaments with you guys. So I'm not exactly sure what spin I'm going to take on this next one, but I'll come up with something nifty for you. Don't forget, if you are listening now, or even if it's not live right now, feel free to shoot me questions, comments, concerns, things you want me to talk about to the Fro Wrestling Sound Off line at 267-642-1160. Send us your thoughts. I want to try to get everything you guys have to talk about out there. I like you guys to be a big part of the show. People who have tuned into several episodes have probably figured that out, that I absolutely love incorporating my fans as best I can. And by the way, I got some I never thought in my lifetime that I would get fan mail, and somehow that has started. And I'm not going to call out names; it's their business. But a certain person this week shot me some very positive compliments, and I appreciate that so much. Thank you for those who have sent me comments about your likes and dislikes and suggestions and things like that for the show. I do take them all very seriously. I appreciate that, and I will say this. At SummerSlam weekend, for those who tune in every week, I was not able to go live because I was away, out of town. But what I was able to do was I was able to get to an internet connection and pop onto Twitter, and I was blown away by how many people I was able to have live interactive tweeting going on during the show, reactions to matches and things like that. It was very cool. So I'm going to try to do as much of that as I can going forward for WWE pay-per-views. So I'll try to get that going for you guys starting in September. See, there's some of that creaking on the floor that I was talking about earlier. See, I got people running around upstairs. That's why I need better equipment. Need to put up some soundproofing panels on the walls so people don't, have to hear that in the background whenever I'm recording. Somebody actually asked me one time, why in some of my recorded episodes, the non-live episodes, do I have background music that plays all the time? You know why that plays? That plays so you don't hear all that creaking around and stuff. I got 3 beautiful children running around upstairs. That's why I do that. So I want to get to the news of the day. I've been dilly-dallying and running my mouth too much already. I want to get to the news of the day because there's some cool things to talk about. First off, NXT has taped several episodes, taking them all the way through September and into October. Now, I know I was just complaining about this with Global Force Wrestling, and we'll get to that next, but NXT is a little different for me because there were some monumentally important things, and because they haven't aired on television, people are going to hear about them, and they're going to be dying to see them, firsthand. Whereas with Global Force Wrestling, a lot of their product, and I'm not trying to dump on their product, but their product needs to be more spontaneous because they don't have the following that WWE NXT does. So NXT taping stuff, you're still going to tune into NXT. If you're a diehard, you're going to tune in anyways. NXT is probably the best wrestling in the world right now, short of New Japan Pro Wrestling. And here in the United States, you don't get to see New Japan only that one time that you see it live. Most of the time it's recorded. A lot of weeks they show you stuff from 2016, 2015. Then they mix in something relatively recent, but you don't get the same spontaneity that you do with Raw, SmackDown, things like that, pay-per-views. And NXT, despite the fact that spoilers come out, it's still exciting to watch because it's some of the best wrestling you'll ever see. So I'm gonna address some of those. So if you're a person who hates spoilers, I'm going to tell you right now, this episode is, I don't want to say loaded with them, but we're going to cover several things that happened at the NXT tapings, and we're going to cover some things at Global Force Wrestling tapings, and then we'll get to a few other tidbits for the day. This episode is not jam-packed for an hour's worth of conversation, so if you want to call into the Sound Off line, 267-642-1160, I would not hesitate, because I'm not going to be on the air for a full hour, and I don't want to miss being able to talk to people or see your messages and whatnot if you have something to send. I want to make sure we get to those things sooner rather than later. So, in the NXT world, very cool week. So they have some spoilers. First off, the big elephant in the room, Asuka. Asuka hurts herself at TakeOver Brooklyn 3. She has an issue with her collarbone. She broke her collarbone. As someone who has had that same injury myself, not fun, 6 to 8 weeks, and I'm not an athlete. So, an athlete, they say 6 to 8 anyways. I'm going to say 4 to 6. Then again, with her high-flying nature, maybe she really is a 6 to 8 week thing. So, at the tapings, many people have broken the story that Asuka is going to relinquish, after 523 days, the Women's Championship for NXT. That is heartbreaking. I really wanted her to debut on a main roster show with the NXT Women's Championship. I thought that would have really cemented her in a lot of ways, like Kevin Owens did when he showed up with the NXT Championship. I thought they should have done that with Asuka, but unfortunately, WWE has to react to situations quickly, and a collarbone break for Asuka is a serious injury. They had to do something. Now, the question is, who do they put the championship on, and how do they crown the champion? Because here's the thing, they're in a very, I don't want to say a good time for somebody to get hurt, but it kind of is. You've got the Mae Young Classic, which already has filmed, but most people haven't seen it. So at the conclusion of the Mae Young Classic airing on the WWE Network, which starts this week, you're going to have a winner of that tournament who you can then put against someone on the NXT roster and potentially crown your new champion, using that as a springboard for a new talent. I know who I would like to see them do that with. I'm not going to give that away. We'll wait and see. For those who have not watched or read or anything like that, the spoilers for the Mae Young Classic, it is a fantastic tournament coming to WWE programming this week, so check that out. Also at the NXT tapings, we already knew that they were coming together because of the NXT TakeOver Brooklyn show, but the Ring of Honor faction is in full force. Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish, Adam Cole, they are clearly united. They don't have a name yet, which would be the one thing I think they should give them, just so they can feel like a legitimate all-time faction. That being said, they are wreaking havoc over NXT. Once again, at these tapings, there's going to be a moment where the NXT champion, Drew Galloway, or Drew McIntyre, I'm going to have to get used to saying McIntyre again, is going to get jumped by the Ring of Honor faction. That's what I'm going to call him from right now until they give me a name to use. But he gets jumped by Red Dragon and Adam Cole, or the Ring of Honor faction, and gets laid out. But my feeling was, I thought that was going to lead to Adam Cole challenging for the Ring of Honor. Or, I'm sorry, the Ring of Honor. Oh my goodness. Adam Cole challenging for the NXT Championship. That does not seem like the case. Here's why. One, they crowned a new contender to the NXT title. A little bit of retread, but it's still fresh enough that people will be supportive of it. And that's Roderick Strong, who defeats Bobby Roode and is apparently the next contender for the championship. But then the problem is with him standing in the ring and Drew McIntyre being on the entrance ramp, you're going to see that's when Adam Cole and Red Dragon attack. You would think that would lead to Adam Cole challenging for the title. Not so much. At the end of the tapings, there is a tag team match involving Pete Dunne, Tyler Bate, Wolfgang. Gosh, I'm forgetting the other guy from the UK tournament. Trent Seven, I apologize. So the four of them are involved in a tag team match, and they all get jumped by the Ring of Honor faction. Almost setting you up for a Ring of Honor group, which I would not be surprised to see Roderick Strong join, taking on the United Kingdom members. And this may be their first major feud. And it's frustrating and beautiful all at the same time, in that WWE clearly is not going to foster this UK brand anytime soon. However, What they are doing is it looks like they're going to integrate them into NXT and give them their first feud, which is good timing because the next TakeOver event is going to be around Survivor Series time, and it would be really cool to see like a Survivor Series style match at NXT TakeOver right before Survivor Series. I think that would be a very good decision on WWE's part. So, gonna have to watch the next several weeks of NXT tapings to watch those things unfold, but it should be some really exciting stuff, and I'm anxious to see that Ring of Honor faction and the UK people get out there, really throw down, because I actually get comments quite often. I've had this too many times, if you ask me. People saying, I don't like the UK wrestlers. They look too small, or they don't look like they could hang with the WWE stars and things like that. The reality is this, guys, these are not new talents. These guys have been wrestling in the United Kingdom for years, and they're super over in the United Kingdom. They've got a huge crowd followings there. So coming to WWE, it's no different than somebody coming from New Japan or coming from CMLL or AAA or something of that nature and coming to WWE. You know, the difference is we're not used to their style. The British wrestling style is very different. So it'll be very cool once people start to really embrace that and realize that these guys are every bit as good. I think them going against former Ring of Honor talent is actually a fantastic pairing, because I think that those two, at least skill set wise and in-ring ability wise, are going to be very similar, and they're going to make for some really great matches. So keep your eyes on what's coming there. Now, let's move over to Global Force Wrestling. So I was just bragging about the NXT spoilers, and instead, I'm not going to brag. I'm going to complain about these spoilers for Global Force Wrestling. I'm very frustrated with them. And the reason I'm frustrated with Global Force Wrestling is I am able to tell you now, and I will tell you now, what the card will be for Bound for Glory. Bound for Glory doesn't take place till November 5th, I believe, in Orlando, Florida, at Universal Studios. And we already know the card, and the card doesn't make any sense to anyone because they haven't even seen some of these people on television yet. So I'm going to run down the card. If you do not want to have GFW ruined for you, at least the pay-per-view card for Bound for Glory, then tune out for a few seconds. But I think most people who are diehard fans of the Pro Wrestling Podcast or of wrestling in general want to hear these things. And I will start off with the Global Force Wrestling Knockouts Championship. There would be a fatal four-way between the champion, Sienna, taking on the soon-to-be-retired Gail Kim, the returning Taryn Terrell, and Allie. Should be a good match. I'm actually expecting Taryn Terrell to walk out as the new women's champion of that match, but you'll have to see how that all comes together over the next several weeks. They've only recorded television for the next 10 weeks, so as those unfold on television, keep your eye on that. For the X Division Championship, now listen how I describe this. The champion, Trevor Lee. That's right, Trevor Lee is not the champion according to the last live pay-per-view they did on television, but he will win the championship in the next couple weeks. He will defend his championship against Sanjay Dutt, Matt Sydal, P.D. Williams, who's returning to the company and hasn't happened yet, Garza Jr., and Desmond Xavier. Should be a fantastic X Division match. I'm expecting Matt Sydal to walk out as the champion, as kind of like it's like a consolation prize, since he's not going to get the World Championship, because, hello, spoilers, he's going to lose his World Championship opportunity to the new GFW World Champion. A Monsters Ball match will take place between the now back to being a bad guy over heel Abyss taking on Grotto. The Six Sides of Steel will be taking place as Moose will team up with UFC Hall of Famer Stefan Bonner to take on Bobby Lashley and King Mo. Now, for people who have not read the spoilers, you're like, why are Stefan Bonner and King Mo involved at all? You got to watch the next several weeks to find out why. It's, in my opinion, bad booking, but they're trying to grab some high-profile names to bring in a bigger audience, so I guess I kind of understand. In what is being called a Global Force Wrestling Tag Team Title 5150 Street Fight. Follow me on all that? GFW Tag Team Title 5150 Street Fight. The champions, who you've not even seen on television yet, OVE, will take on all members of LAX. Which, the interesting thing there is Homicide has not been at the tapings, but he's still a part of LAX. So apparently the two wrestlers who are now the GFW Tag Team Champions, who you haven't even seen on television yet, and you won't see them win the titles for a few weeks, are going to defend those titles against LAX, the former champions who, according to television, are still the champions. and the new Global Force Wrestling World Heavyweight Champion, Eli Drake. If you didn't know that was coming, you're blind to booking of wrestling. This guy deserves to be their world champion. He's been waiting for far too long. He's an incredible talent. He used to be in WWE. He's Sean Stricker. Now he's Eli Drake. He's fantastic. And it's about time he got a world championship in Impact Wrestling. He's going to take on Johnny Impact, a.k.a. Johnny Mundo, Johnny Nitro, John Morrison, whatever you want to call him, who is now the #1 contender to the GFW World title, even though on our television set, he hasn't even debuted for the company yet. So, all that being said, their spoilers, the reason I have an issue is, like I said for multiple matches there, you haven't even seen the wrestlers debut for the company yet, and we've already found out who's going to be wrestling who at their biggest pay-per-view of the year. That's a little ridiculous. Just my opinion. Going to move on to the last few tidbits for this week. By the way, don't forget 267-642-1160 for the sound off line. If you have questions, comments, concerns, shoot them into us. We want to hear from you. If you want to shoot over to our Patreon page, it's patreon.com/ProWrestlingPodcast. We'd love to have you be a member of the family. But now I'm going to get to the last few tidbits. First off, Bobby Roode. I had comments and questions submitted to the sound off line this week about Bobby Roode's return to, or I shouldn't say return to, but actually, I can say return to. For those who are like Uber fans who go on YouTube and look up all these matches, guys, when they were like long before they were superstars, Bobby Roode has been on SmackDown before. Bleach blonde hair and all this other nonsense. Actually teamed with Dean Ambrose when he was still a nobody. But so I'll say Bobby Roode's return to SmackDown was very interesting this week, in that Bobby Roode is a heel in NXT, but he goes on to SmackDown. And I don't know what they were thinking. Like, he's clearly going to be over with the fans. Real wrestling fans love Bobby Roode. He is about as amazing a wrestler as there is in the wrestling world today. I would put him against anybody on any roster in any company right now, and I guarantee you, whether win, lose, or draw, he's going to put on a great match. He debuted the glorious music hit that people were singing along, and it was a babyface reaction. So, the story coming out of the various internet sources that we always talk about, and I'll plug them all right now because I don't want anybody thinking that I don't want to give credit where credit's due. eWrestling News, WrestleZone.com, Wrestling Observer, PWIOnline.com, Wrestling Inc., the Bleacher Report, you name it, I go on all of them. Wrestling Inc. is turning into one of my favorites. Cage Side Seats, they all report the same stuff. So what I'm reporting is not like exclusive to any one of them, okay? They all report the same stuff, but getting back to the topic, Bobby Roode's role in SmackDown is now supposed to be, at least temporarily, as a babyface because Vince McMahon knew he was going to be over when he debuted. Now, the thing is, they want to try to move away from the glorious music so that they could turn him heel at some point, and probably sooner rather than later. But I actually hope they don't, because you can't buy organic appreciation from the fans. Everybody loves him. And nothing you can do about that. You can't change that Bobby Roode has a huge following, so why are you fighting it? Just run with it. Go with it. It works. Edge and TNA. Now, that may sound weird, but Edge had an interview this week. I saw it first reported on eWrestling News. And what they were talking about is that Edge, when Christian was in Impact Wrestling, there was an offer for Edge to go there. And he actually considered going there. They talked about having more limited dates. The money was all right. You know, the opportunity to work with people like Samoa Joe and AJ Styles and all that was there. And he was very interested. 2006, 2007-ish. And that he chose to stay with WWE because they had been so understanding of him being like a homegrown talent. He went there. He said, he had a couple matches. I don't know if you've ever seen them. And if you haven't, I encourage you to find them on YouTube. You can find them right now. It takes 30 seconds. Just type in, do a search on YouTube for Edge in WCW. He has a match against Kevin Sullivan and a match against Meng, a.k.a. Haku. And he had those matches, and he hated being there. It just wasn't a right fit for him. He went to WWE, and for those who remember Edge's career and how things evolved, he went from being like this energetic guy coming through the crowd and jumping up onto the turnbuckle, to a member of the Brood, to a tag team wrestler with Christian, one of the most successful tag teams of all time, and then eventually transitioned into the Intercontinental Champion. And as everybody knows, he became a Hall of Fame multiple-time World Heavyweight Champion. And he felt like because they supported him throughout his career and gave him the opportunities to grow from a virtually unknown talent into a Hall of Fame world champion, he felt the loyalty to stay with WWE, and I commend Edge for that. I'm a huge fan of his to begin with, so it's kind of a little bit of me marking out, but the truth is that Edge is a class act. He's a great wrestler. He always gave everything he had to the business. He was forced to leave too soon, but no regrets, you know? He's a great talent. So I'm actually glad he didn't go to TNA. Maybe he could have done some nifty stuff with AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, or something like that. But you can't deny how great his career was in WWE. So, you know, it's a great thing to know that the offer was there and he chose to stay. One of the final things I want to get to tonight is all about the New Day. So a lot of people were frustrated that the New Day ended up losing in their championship match at SummerSlam. And that they felt that, you know, after being tag team champions for over a year, 400 and whatever days on Raw, that this in some way made them feel weak. And I actually agree with that. The issue is that WWE has a much longer term plan. I actually said that. They have a long-term plan. See, a lot of people thought that what was going to happen is that the New Day was going to end up being essentially broken up, split up, go off and do their own thing. And instead, it looks like that's not the case. That instead, WWE is now considering and guaranteeing that they're going to become one of, if not the greatest tag team in the history of the company. And that would include giving them World Tag Team Championship runs with, you know, if you look at historically speaking, the most WWE Tag Team Championship reigns were the Dudley Boys with 9. So the New Day would end up getting to 9 tag team championships to be able to become the greatest tag team champion of all time. So I don't know how I feel about that. I'm not opposed to it. We haven't had, you know, for a long time there, like Stephanie McMahon, Triple H, and people like that weren't really even fostering the tag team division. And now they're talking about giving it special attention so that they can be the all-time greatest tag team, best team ever. And I kind of like that. So that apparently is the motive behind the loss, because without them losing, they can never win it back and get to that 9 championship wins, which they would need to pass and break the record. So that is apparently the biggest motivation behind that quick changing of the guard. You know, they just won the tag team titles a month ago. They've already lost them. Now the plan is to transition those belts back to the New Day soon. I would not give them directly to them from the Usos. I'd have somebody else beat the Usos. I've said it before, I would love to see the Fashion Police pull off the win and take those titles, but I don't know if WWE has the confidence in them to make that happen. But we'll have to wait and see. So going forward, we'll have to keep our eyes and see how long it takes for them to make them one of, if not the greatest tag team of all time. That's all the time we have for this episode. Make sure you check back with us next episode. We'll run down everything that happens with Raw, maybe SmackDown, depends on the night. We're supposed to go and put up our episodes Tuesday and Wednesday evenings, but I have found recently that I like to try to get something up Monday night. I don't know if that'll happen this week. Monday night is a crazy night for me. I have my fantasy football draft. I have that interview that I'm trying to get up for you guys, so I may not do it Monday night, maybe Tuesday, but we'll run down Raw, we'll run down SmackDown. I'll try to see if I can make that episode live, because I know people seem to like the live episodes a little better. I do too, actually. To my surprise, whenever I do the live episodes, I don't screw up as much. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but when I do the recorded episodes, I got to edit out all sorts of stuff where I'm like, and it drives me nuts. So I kind of like this live thing. It makes me feel different, and I think I do better doing it this way. Special thanks as always go out to bensound.com and purpleplanet.com. They produce all the music that we use in our shows, the intro, the exit music, and when we use it, the background music. So I always want to make sure I give them the plug because they are great sources and they're great. They're both great sites. You can find a plethora of sounds to use if you have a podcast of your own, radio show, talk show, whatever it is, and you're looking for some background music. bensound.com and purpleplanet.com are awesome. Today's podcast sponsored in part by Beazle Games. Bringing a new friend to family game night is easy with sketchy people. Showcase your artistic side in this new game from Beazle Games by going to frowrestling.com and clicking the icon in the middle of the page. This game is awesome. I have a copy. If you have not seen it, check it out. I'm not telling you have to buy the thing, but go to frowrestling.com and click on the link and go in and take a look at what it's about. Very cool game. I actually really enjoy that quite a bit. As well as the one that we plug on the Fro Football podcast episodes by Fufu Games called Legendary Elements. It's on the same website. By all means, check those out. And if you have not already, if you are a fantasy football player, we have a 4-part series that we put up, the first 3 parts so far. The Fro Football Podcast covering fantasy preview. This week and next week are the heaviest weeks for fantasy drafts. We help you with, who should be drafted in what position, where they rank, how we feel about different players, how we think they're going to perform. I have a special guest, a good friend of mine, Jason Peters, who's been playing fantasy football for 10, 12 years at this point. This is year number 30 for me. This is my 30th year in fantasy football. So hopefully my analysis helps you out in some way. So check those out at the Fro Football Podcast. And to AlleyRepair.com. I always got to thank Alley Repair. Alley Repair services all your classic skee ball, pinball, and arcade game needs. First-class quality workmanship. This guy is amazing. And I don't know if anybody knows this, but the corporations that make skee ball machines, those things you throw the brown ball at the beach and get it into the big circles, they're out of business. They don't make them anymore. So if you have one and you want to get it serviced, it's virtually impossible to get taken care of anymore. There's just no place doing it. So check if you have one of those in your basement or if you have one in your business, check out alleyrepair.com and they can take care of all that for you. And they have a great pricing package on servicing of all skee ball games. So check that out. Be sure to shoot over to our website at frolifeplanning.com if you are looking at higher education, colleges, university, if you're a high school student, or if you're an adult looking to return to school, finish up a degree, or you just are looking for a new career track. Fro Life Educational Planning is a company that I started to help people find their most naturally matched path to a successful career. We go through an analysis, find out what your best fit is, what you'd be good at, what schools would be good for you to go to and apply to and be successful getting accepted to, help you with your course planning and all those things at frolifeplanning.com. So, as I always say, Fro Life Educational Planning is for today, for tomorrow, and for life with Fro Life. I'm Fred Froelich, better known as Mr. Fro. I want to thank you for taking a few moments with us today. And if you're looking for more wrestling news and rumors, go to the site that I write for. I am a sports writer as well. It is called thesportsjunkies101.com. That's THA sportsjunkies.com. sportsjunkies101.com, which is our site. We cover all major sports, but you know me, I'm the wrestling guy, so I'm in the wrestling article section, and there are a host of other writers on our team as well who are fantastic, so check those out whenever you get the opportunity. And until next time, take care, everybody. Keep sending the questions. Harold, I did not forget any of your questions. I'm one of those people, if you can't tell, I'm long-winded. I wouldn't have had enough time to get to them all on this episode. Feel free to shoot me more messages. I will try to respond to them as soon as I can, now that I have, I think, all my technical difficulties taken care of. But until next time, everybody, take care. Have a great night.